Hey folks, Phil Gallagher here for round 4 of Daily D&T this week. We're playing against Deulatar. I don't know if that's like a Minotaur or what, but whatever it is, we got a decent hand. I feel like we have a nice balanced opener that's going to give us play against most sorts of decks. Blah, 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 blah. Is that Omnoth? That's sweet. So Preordain might mean something like Show and Tell. We have a Sanctum Prelate, which will be very good on 3. We're not actually going to beat something like Show and Tell for a creature right now. And they will have the ability to Show and Tell before I can Sanctum Prelate in all likelihood. Recruiter gives me a potential out in that I can Recruiter for a Palace Jailer to beat like a Shonen Emrakul or something. Currently say we are not favored in this match if this is indeed Show and Tell, which it really looks like. I have a lot of good draws, though, like Thalia, Rishadan Port, Flicker Wisp, Wasteland, all very good. Prelate, you're not quite what I'm looking for. You're very good in this matchup, so I do appreciate you appearing, but now is not the time. So this is the critical turn. If they Show and Tell this turn, I probably lose. It feels like a Show and Tell, boys. Okay. So note that since we've missed land drops, or wait, no, this is just turn 3. Since we don't have 3 lands in play yet, Palace Jailer isn't actually an out to like a Grizzlebrand or Emrakul that's put in. So putting in Recruiter of the Guard right now isn't actually the best. In the hopes that they're going to like go for Omniscience into a cantrip chain, I'm actually going to go ahead and put in Sanctum Prelate instead. So this is really interesting. Because there's an argument for just naming 0. So that they can't Lotus Petal and get me this turn? So if they have the Lotus Petal, they should have played it out prior to this for exactly this reason. But is that something they would have thought about? If I live to my next turn and I draw a land, I get to go Recruiter, Revoker, Revoke, Sneak Attack, and I very likely win if I draw a land. I'm at a little less than 50% to draw a land. 22 hits out of 50. They should have played out the Lotus Petal if they have it. All right, do your worst. we have drawn the land? We would have drawn the land. That's a little frustrating. We didn't play around Singing Spirit Guide, though. I mean, that was not something that I thought was really worth messing with. Alright, so the easy ones we have are Palace Jailer, Act of Authority, War Priest of Thune. Council's Judgment is, like, medium, but probably good enough. We can consider Deafening Silence and Dampening Sphere. Deafening Silence helps with some of the, like, show and tell type scenarios where, like, they show and tell omniscience and then they can't cantrip afterwards, but is, like, decisively medium against everything that's going on. We're going to see how much stuff we have that we want to cut and go from there. So our Swords of Plowshares aren't great as a starting point. Our Jitte is very bad. You'll probably trim at least one Stone Fortunistic. Walking Ballista doesn't really do anything. If we brought in all of these, that would do it. I don't really like Damping Sphere as a Magic card. I don't really think it's playable in D&T. Some people really like it, but I don't. So I guess we'll play these Deafening Silence. This still leaves us with 25 creatures, which is a super healthy creature count. It helps that we have a Palace Jailer and a War Priest of Thune in the sideboard to help balance out the creature that we've taken out, the two creatures that we've taken out. Just to talk about it, Path to Exile would have come in every single matchup that I've played so far this league. And it's notably missing from our sideboard here. I'm not going to say that our hand is perfect, because it's not. But it has some things going for it. We have a Caracas, so we can beat some of the, like, easy, like, oh, I just have it, paths to victory. Oh, just naturally playing out a City of Traders, huh? It would be a real shame if something happened to it. So we've essentially started this game over where I have an overwhelming mana advantage. Oh, seriously? Did my opponent just keep a one-land City of Traders hand? Hoping to, like, spike a Lotus Petal or Island to go off on turn 2? That seems questionable against the Wasteland Port deck, but okay. So I'm playing aggressively here. We're just going to try to lock this game up before my opponent can do anything else. So, like, we're using our Lotus Petal to put an extra 2 points of damage onto the battlefield here, because otherwise it's not doing us a ton of good. Nice. So I think the game effectively ends now. We get to Recruiter for a Prelate. Like, we have Revoker as well. We have an abundance of riches, yeah. And there we go. So when we're on the draw, we would really like to keep a hand that has, like, War Priest, Active Authority, Palace Jailer, or Flicker Wisp to help buy time in case my opponent just, like, YOLO show and tells on their turn 1 or 2. Which it's looking like they're very much in just, like, I am going to jam mode. With Caracas also being something that helps to make an opening hand keepable. So my opponent kept on 7, too, right? So I kept a 7-card hand with no ability to cantrip and no second land. No Lotus Petal. I don't play a lot of Show and Tell, but I think I've played enough to know that like I wouldn't gamble on that. This is an example of a hand that, like, while it has lands and spells, like, probably doesn't actually do anything in this matchup. This is an easy mulligan here. I'm going to keep this one. Not terribly enthused about it, but I'm going to keep it. The hand's just slow. It gets improved by a lot of cards. You know, Deafening Silence, Wasteland, Active Authority, War Priest, Flicker Wisp, Palace Jailer, Thalia. Like, there's so many cards that make this hand better that I think this is a fine keep. I'm guessing my opponent is inexperienced as a Show and Tell player at this point. Like, fetching Volcanic Island on 1 against the Wasteland deck doesn't feel correct to me. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with that exchange. So the next interesting question is, like, if my opponent Show and Tells, do I put in a land or a Sanctum Prelate? Like, in the hypothetical world where my opponent just goes, like, Soul Land, Lotus Petal, Show and Tell. I think I'm supposed to put in a land so that I can Council's Judgment a fatty if they play a fatty. It'd be pretty likely to beat an Emrakul, but not a Griselbrand. I don't think we're going to run into that situation, at least this turn, though, because my opponent is tanking on this Brainstorm. So that might mean there is a problem with the hand. Either they're still missing something, they like are going to be Brainstorm locked, they're missing land. I will be very likely to Rashad import them now, given how long this Brainstorm is taking them. The reason being that I can cut them off of Ponder, shuffle away the presumably bad cards that are on top of their deck. Impulse? Nope, just fetching there anyway because they were going to do it. Oh. Alright, so they have a Veil of Summer potentially available to them. This is a super interesting turn now. So Prelate is soft to a second Force of Will. It's also soft to Soul Land Sneak Attack. Is there any other green card other than Veil of Summer that I cared about? Probably not. Kind of just want to, like, Wasteland Volk, tap Volk, and stay in the holding pattern that I'm in. Because at this point, I feel like this game dragging on is just absolutely favoring me. Should have played planes there. That was a mistake. So now I'm in trouble to, like, soul land, sneak attack, plus creature, or regular land plus spirit guide or pedal plus creature. I'm probably 90+% to win the game if I untap. So they do need to have the additional mana source because I will just beat sneak it. I will just beat sneak attack and pass via council. Oh no, I've made an error. I've shut off my own council judgment via Sanctum Prelate. Shoot. My Sanctum Prelate should have gone on 4 because I have Show and Tell sort of covered by Council's Judgment for a non-omniscience card. Alright, so I potentially can get myself out of this, and it depends on how well my opponent plays. If my opponent doesn't play well, then my Port plus Caracas will beat them. If my opponent plays well, then it won't. So to explain the situation, if my opponent main phase activates Sneak Attack, I respond by tapping down their second mana source. When they go to combat, I then Caracas their creature back. But if they do all of this in the beginning of combat, then I don't actually beat it. I'm going to hedge towards my opponent being bad and pass the turn without playing Thalia. I'm also making the assumption that they have a creature already, which may or may not be accurate. Oh yes, do it. Do it. Okay. So I can wait for this to come into play. I just need to like do it still in this phase. Don't be Grizzlebrand, please. Just be Emrakul. So now that they've given me priority, well, actually, now that it's Grizzlebrand, I could just let them go to attackers. Am I counting on them making a mistake, or am I just going to make a good play? Because if they just go to attackers and attack with the Grizzlebrand, I get pretty far ahead by just bouncing it with Caracas. But I don't think I want to count on them making that mistake. There's some problems with doing this, in that if my opponent draws into Lotus Petal or Simian Spirit Guide, it's a little bit of a beating. But without Lotus Petal or Spirit Guide, this guarantees that I'm not getting Emrakul this turn. Although there's also a world where I just let myself get Emrakul. I could let myself get Emrakul, bounce Grizzlebrand, play second Caracas, which invalidates Grizzlebrand from actually connecting ever, and they can't draw any more cards with it, and then just play out this super slow game. That's really interesting. That's a problem. Alright, so it's actually happening. I get the choice of dealing with the Emrakul for the rest of the game, or just taking 15, going to 5, and then trying to beat the Grizzlebrand via the Caracas and other tools that I have. I think it's correct to just keep dealing with the Grizzlebrand. All of this, of course, is moot if they have just, drawn a show and tell in their 7 cards. But that's whatever. We could have just won this game the easy way by putting Prelate on 4. But no. No, we had to do it the hard way. We'll lose to another Emrakul as well. So we do this every turn forever, and then hope to not lose to the other 6 cards in their hand. Not a good draw, but that's fine. We don't have that much damage left to do. We have 4 hits with an X1, and then we win. Sorry, 4 hits with an X2. Yeah. How is this different from last turn? Oh, you have drawn Emrakul. That's how it's different from last turn. All right. Well, I think I punted that one away. It is correct about 90% of the time to put Sanctum Prelate on 3 in that matchup. But considering the Council's judgment that I had in my hand, I should have put it on 4. So that one is on me. Not happy with how I played there. It would be pretty easy to blame, oh, your opponent just top decked the Emrakul there, oh, it's not your fault. No, it was. I made a poor play there. All right, so we'll be back tomorrow. See if we can get some play points out of this league.